In your mobile interface, you will likely want to have the option of scrolling through a screen vertically. Okay, so let's take a look at how we can accomplish this. Now, you may want your home page to be your initial start point. You might have categories available there. You might go in and begin listing, in this case for this exercise, the recipes or whatever additional content. What I'm going to do is I've created a section specific to a list. So I would have a home page, and then once I left the home page, I would go to our home screen. I would go to the section which I now have a list of all of the recipes. Now, I could just make this section, I could just make this one big, huge scrolling section. Or I could break this into categories, and then I could scroll through those categories. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. So I'm going to remove the list H1, and let's go ahead and we will add another div inside. Okay. And this is going to have, let's see, do we need, the ID will now be, well, we can't have two, so let's take this one away. Okay, and this will now be inside this section. So if we left the ID here, I believe what would happen is if we wanted to go to the list or the multiple list screens, then we would always go to the top. So if we apply list here, and then each additional list screen we add, we would add another ID to jump to that particular screen. All right, let's go ahead and format our div a little better here, like so. Okay, so we're creating this div, and we're now going to move our ID list here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use a class list child screen. Okay, and we're going to create a rule that will style this particular screen. All right, so what we can do is let's just copy this div here, and we'll paste a couple times just to demonstrate the idea. So we'll make this one list 2, and this one will be list 3. Now, we cannot use the same ID. It's not going to show here, but we would get an error for using the same ID more than one time. So we could change this to list 1. This one could be list 2 and list 3. Again, if we, in our menu, if we wanted to jump to a particular list, then this is how we would do it, is through these IDs. Okay, let's go ahead now and add our CSS rule. We're going to target list. So we're going to target in our section. Okay, so here's our section. This will be list. So let's go ahead and now add our rule. So we're going to target that section with the class list. We're going to set the scroll snap type to Y. So previously we set it to X. Now we're going to set it to Y to scroll on the Y coordinate. Again, we're going to set this to mandatory. I believe we could set this to proximity, but we're going to say mandatory, so it's going to mandatory snap instead of a proximity snap. Our display, again, will be flex, but this time the flex direction will be a column. So the default is for the flex to be a row, but we're going to set the flex direction to a column. Background color, this will just set a background color. We could also set background colors to various screens with a separate class if you want. Okay, we're going to again use our WebKit overflow scrolling to touch, and this time our overflow Y will be the scroll. Okay, so what we're doing is we have this section that has the list, okay, and then inside the list we have multiple divs, which will be our child elements, our list child screen. So let's go ahead and add that rule now. So here's our rule for our list child screen, which is associated with each of the divs we've added. So these 3 divs, we're going to be able to scroll through them vertically inside of our section list. So let's take a look at our rule here. So we have position is relative. We're going to set a minimum width of 100 viewport width and a minimum height of 100 viewport height. And then again, as we've done previously, our scroll snap align will be at the start, and this will be at the top of each of our screens. So let's go ahead and save, and we'll take a look in our mobile view here. So let's just update our screen, okay? And what you'll see, now we're getting a little bit of a scroll just because of what CodePen throws in up here, but here's our list, okay? And now we are moving through our list vertically. We can still move to our other screens, but we're not going to get the scroll. Now we are getting a somewhat of a scroll here because of what CodePen's doing, but that won't happen in an actual device. Okay, so if we go back, we'll take a look. We can scroll through our lists. Okay, so if we go back, just be aware that within a section you can add divs, and then we can scroll through those divs using display flex, flex direction, column. Now, what we'll do in another videos is we'll talk about what if you're a div within one of these sections, or even one of these other screens needed to be taller than the screen, the original screen, which preceded. Okay, but we'll talk about that in another video.